What would you do if, on a storm-ravaged night, a knock at your door pulled you into a story that would rewrite your life? For Maya Ellis, it wasn't just rain that entered her home. It was a drenched stranger and his trembling little girl. She thought she was offering a bed for the night. She didn't know she was letting in the man who'd soon hold her career, her trust, and maybe even her heart in his hands. The storm had been relentless over London. Sheets of rain cutting across the streets, wind rattling old brick windows like fists demanding entry. Maya Ellis pulled her cardigan tighter around her, listening to the thunder roll above the converted townhouse she called home. She wasn't expecting anyone, not at this hour, not in this weather. When the knock came, frantic, desperate, she startled so hard she nearly dropped her teacup. She hesitated at the door, hand hovering over the brass handle. She lived alone, and storms had a way of sharpening fear. But then she heard it, a child's whimper through the wood. She swung it open and gasped. A tall man, water streaming from his hair and coat, clutched a girl who couldn't be more than 7. The child's lips quivered with cold, and her eyes held a plea no one could ignore. "Please," the man said, voice raw. "Just for the night. The hotels are full, the trains are stopped. She needs to be warm." Maya's heart overruled caution. "Come in," she whispered, stepping aside. The storm rushed past her into the hall as father and daughter stumbled inside. She shut the door and turned the lock, not knowing she had just opened something far greater. The man introduced himself simply. Daniel. His daughter Lily shyly clung to his leg, her curls damp and heavy. Maya wrapped the girl in a spare blanket and set her on the sofa, offering tea she wasn't sure a child would drink. Daniel murmured thanks, his eyes restless, scanning his phone as if the storm outside had followed him in. "Consulting," he said when she asked about his work, the word rolling too easily from his tongue. She didn't press, but she noticed details. The leather shoes too fine for a man between gigs, the wristwatch that caught the lamplight with discreet opulence, the way his phone buzzed with messages marked urgent. Lily soon dozed on the couch, her tiny hand curled around the blanket's edge. Maya watched Daniel watch his daughter, a tenderness so fierce it softened his otherwise sharp face. Something about it tugged at her, even as unease whispered that this wasn't the whole story. When the lights flickered and went out, the three of them sat in candlelight, shadows dancing on the walls. It was the kind of fragile closeness storms created. She didn't know then that his lie, small, convenient, would unravel everything she thought she understood about kindness, power, and trust. The storm quieted by morning, but the unease in Maya's chest had not. She rose early to find Daniel already awake, Lily still curled up peacefully. He was typing on his phone with a speed and precision that belied his between gigs story. When he caught her glance, he slid the device into his pocket, the mask of casual gratitude slipping into place. "Thank you again," he said. "I don't know what we'd have done without you." His voice carried sincerity, but his eyes carried weight, like a man both grateful and guilty. Maya smiled politely, brushing past the questions that pressed at her tongue. Maybe it didn't matter who he was. He was a father, and last night had been about keeping his daughter safe. That was enough. Or so she told herself. As he prepared to leave, Lily hugged Maya tightly, whispering, "Thank you for making Daddy smile." That innocence struck Maya harder than any suspicion. She waved them off into the gray morning, not knowing their paths were already knotted tighter than she could ever untangle. By mid-morning, Maya was back in her corporate world, a mid-level project manager at Hartwell Dynamics, a tech company shifting under whispers of a leadership shakeup. She straightened her blazer and tucked damp hair behind her ear, ready to face another day of endless reports. But when the staff crowded into the glass atrium for an emergency announcement, Maya's world tilted. The new CEO was being introduced, The company's founder, Edward Hartwell, had passed suddenly last month, and speculation buzzed about his successor. Maya joined the ripple of gasps as the man stepped up to the podium, adjusting his tie under the fluorescent lights. Daniel Hart, the storm stranger, Lily's father, the man who had knocked on her door. Her stomach twisted. He looked different here. Commanding, ruthless in posture, the soft desperation of last night tucked neatly away. His eyes swept the crowd but didn't linger on her. To him, she was just another employee. To her, he was both a betrayal and a secret she could never tell. Maya couldn't concentrate on her work. Every click of Daniel's shoes in the corridor set her heart racing. Every meeting invite carried the dread of exposure. She wasn't supposed to know him as anything other than her CEO. When her friend and colleague Hannah leaned over their cubicles whispering, "He's brutal, you know. Restructuring, layoffs, the whole thing." Maya felt her throat close. Was this the same man who had whispered reassurances to his frightened child by candlelight? At lunch, she saw him in the cafeteria, scanning his phone while Lily, now cared for by a nanny, tugged at his sleeve. Maya's chest ached. He was playing two roles, the powerful CEO and the stumbling father, and somehow both seemed true. That night, she lay awake replaying the storm. She should have felt used, deceived, but what she felt instead was something harder to name. Empathy tangled with resentment, curiosity braided with fear. The company buzzed with speculation about Daniel's first moves. Rumors swirled of department cuts, stricter deadlines, and more profit-driven policies. Maya dreaded the announcement, bracing for the worst. Instead, Daniel stunned them all. In his first all-staff email, he announced sweeping employee-first policies, flexible hours, mental health support, extended parental leave. The same crowd that had braced for tyranny erupted with cautious hope. Maya read the email twice, her eyes catching on the language. It didn't sound like the ruthless strategist people feared. It sounded like the man who had sat in her living room, whispering comfort to Lily. Still, doubt gnawed at her. Was it genuine kindness or just a calculated move to win the staff's loyalty? She couldn't decide which truth hurt more, that he might be lying at home or that he might be lying at work. When Daniel finally called Maya into his office, her pulse thundered louder than the storm that had first bound them together. His office was sleek, glass walls framing the skyline, but his expression was unguarded when he saw her. "I owe you an apology," he began, voice low. "I shouldn't have lied about who I was." Maya folded her arms, fighting the tremor in her voice. "You let me open my door without telling me the truth." "I was terrified," he admitted. "Not just of losing control here, but of failing her." He gestured toward a photo of Lily on his desk. "I didn't want to be Daniel Hart's CEO that night. I just wanted to be her dad." Her anger softened against her will. She wanted to stay firm, to remind herself that kindness could be weaponized. But the rawness in his confession chipped away at her defenses. Days bled into weeks, and Maya found herself caught in an invisible thread between them. Their interactions at work were professional, crisp, but in the rare moments when their eyes met, a quiet history hummed beneath the surface. One evening, she found herself walking past his office long after hours. Through the glass, she saw him slumped at his desk, head in hands, papers scattered like fallen leaves. It wasn't the image of a ruthless CEO. It was a man drowning. She almost walked on. Instead, she knocked softly. His head lifted, eyes weary. "Maya," he said, her name carrying both relief and hesitation. For the first time, she saw him not as a storm stranger or a corporate giant, but as both at once. And she realized that perhaps the line between kindness and betrayal was far thinner than she had ever believed. The project Maya managed became the center of Daniel's new vision for the company. It meant late nights, strategy meetings, and more of Daniel's presence than she was comfortable with. Yet it also gave her glimpses of his sincerity. The way he listened to junior staff, the way he quietly redirected credit to those who deserved it. But it wasn't seamless. Investors pushed back, furious at his people-first policies. Board members whispered of replacing him. Maya overheard one such meeting by accident, Daniel's voice breaking under pressure as he insisted, "We can't build profit on broken people?" Something inside her shifted then. He wasn't perfect, but he was trying, against the odds, against his own fears. And that mattered more than the lie he had told that stormy night. Maya's walls began to crack. She found herself looking forward to meetings where his voice would steady the room. She caught herself watching the way he smiled when Lily visited, how it softened the sharp edges of his authority. One afternoon, Lily spotted Maya in the lobby and ran into her arms, squealing with delight. The warmth of the child's embrace left Maya shaken, torn between professional distance and the undeniable bond already forming. Daniel saw it, his expression unreadable. But later, in a quiet corridor, he said softly, "She trusts you. That means more than you know." Maya's heart thudded painfully. She hadn't signed up for this. Not for secrets, not for blurred lines, not for the possibility of falling. And yet, she already was. A company gala brought their fragile connection into the spotlight. Daniel arrived in a tailored suit that made whispers ripple through the crowd. Maya, in an emerald gown, caught his gaze across the room, and the weight of it stole her breath. Colleagues noticed, whispers spread. "She's close to him," someone sneered. "That's why her project's thriving." Maya burned with shame. She hadn't asked for this closeness, yet the accusations still stung. When she slipped outside for air, Daniel followed. "You don't deserve that," he said firmly. His hand almost reached for hers but fell short. "But I can't change what people see." Maya stared at him in the cool night air, torn between the need to protect her reputation and the truth in her chest. "Then maybe we need to stop seeing each other like this." The words hurt more than she expected. Distance became their fragile agreement. They kept interactions strictly professional, their conversations clipped, their gazes carefully averted. The absence gnawed at Maya more than she wanted to admit. But fate wasn't cooperative. When Lily fell sick at school, it was Maya, listed as an emergency contact, who was called. She sat with the girl in the infirmary until Daniel arrived, panic etched into his every line. Seeing Maya cradling his daughter broke something open in him. "I can't do this without help," he admitted hoarsely. "Without you." Maya should have walked away then. But Lily's small hand was still warm in hers, and she knew some choices weren't really choices at all. Daniel's vulnerability deepened in the weeks that followed. He confided in Maya about his brother's death, about inheriting a company he had never wanted, about the crushing expectation to be ruthless when his heart wasn't built that way. "I was the wild one," he confessed one late evening in his office. "Edward built this empire. I was supposed to live free of it. Now I'm drowning in his shadow." Maya listened, her own defenses lowering. She had always prided herself on boundaries, but here was a man stripped of power, a man who simply needed someone to see him. Against reason, against caution, she chose to stay in that moment with him. As Daniel pushed forward with his reforms, opposition hardened. Anonymous emails threatened to expose inappropriate closeness with staff. Investors threatened to pull funding. Maya urged him to be careful, to protect both of them. But Daniel's stubborn streak flared. "I won't pretend anymore," he said. "Not about who I am, not about how I lead." It scared her, his recklessness, his intensity. But it also inspired her. If he could step into vulnerability before the world, maybe she could step into it before herself. A crisis hit when a major client withdrew, citing instability under new leadership. Panic swept the offices, and whispers of Daniel's removal grew louder. Staff morale plummeted. Daniel gathered everyone in the atrium, his voice steady but raw. We are not just a company, we are people. And I promise you this, no one will be left behind. Maya watched the staff lean forward, hope flickering where despair had taken root. For the first time, she realized she wasn't just drawn to him. She believed in him. But belief came at a cost. Late one night, as Maya left the office, a board member cornered her. "You're too close to him," he sneered. "If he falls, you fall with him." The threat rattled her. She considered pulling back completely, severing ties for her own safety. Yet when she saw Daniel the next day, exhaustion lining his face, she couldn't. Instead, she stepped closer. "You don't have to do this alone," she whispered. His eyes softened, and in that fleeting moment partnership bloomed, unspoken, undeniable. Their closeness grew harder to hide. Late-night strategy sessions bled into quiet conversations about life, grief, and hope. Lily began asking for Maya more often, her childlike trust weaving them tighter together. Yet the outside world sharpened its knives. Tabloids hinted at a scandal. Anonymous whispers became louder. Maya found her career at stake, her name dragged through rumors she couldn't control. Daniel offered to protect her by distance, but Maya surprised herself. "No," she said firmly, "we stand together, or not at all." The breaking point came when the board demanded Daniel's resignation. They accused him of weakness, of personal entanglements clouding his judgment. He didn't deny it. "Yes, I care about my people. Yes, I care about her." His voice didn't waver, even as gasps filled the room. "If that makes me unfit, so be it." Maya's chest ached as she watched him risk everything, not just his career but his shielded heart. And in that moment, she realized her own fear had been keeping her from the same bravery. To everyone's shock, employees rallied. Hundreds signed a petition demanding Daniel stay. Investors, seeing the surge of loyalty, backed down. The board begrudgingly reinstated him, though with watchful eyes. When the dust settled, Daniel found Maya in the quiet of the rooftop terrace. "I meant what I said," he told her simply. "About you." The city stretched around them, lights glittering against the night sky. For once, Maya didn't question. She just let herself feel. Their relationship unfolded cautiously but steadily, balancing secrecy with honesty, work with life. Lily became a thread that tied them closer, her laughter healing wounds neither had admitted to. Maya's colleagues eventually softened, recognizing her merit beyond whispers of favoritism. Her project thrived, her leadership respected. Daniel, too, grew into his role, not as the ruthless CEO the world expected, but as the father and man he chose to be. And on quiet nights, when storms rattled the windows, Maya remembered the knock on her door. What she had thought was chance had been the beginning of everything. Months later, another storm hit the city. This time, Maya wasn't alone. She, Daniel, and Lily huddled together, candles flickering warmth against the rain-lashed glass. "Funny," Daniel murmured, brushing a curl from Lily's forehead. "Storms used to terrify me. Now I think of them as beginnings." Maya smiled, heart swelling with quiet certainty. The storm hadn't broken them. It had built them. Their story wasn't perfect. There were still battles at the board, still whispers of doubt, still days when the weight of responsibility pressed heavy. But now they faced it together. Maya no longer questioned his kindness. She no longer doubted her choice. The storm had tested them, but it had also revealed them. Love, after all, wasn't born in perfection. It was born in nights of fear, in confessions whispered through rain, in choices that risked everything. And so, the woman who had once opened her door to a stranger now lived with the man who had become her partner. A single dad, a CEO, a flawed but good man. Together, they built something stronger than any company, a family,